And so I'm going to turn it over to Noor Ghazi, who is going to get us started and tell us her own story and how she comes to this work. So Noor, take it away.
Thank you so much, Hillary, for a great introduction and for starting us today. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I would like to introduce myself a little bit and then we'll hand it over to Olivia. My name is Noor Ghazi. I am the university sponsorship program and the director of the university sponsorship program at ECAR, which is Every Campus a Refuge, here located in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I'm also a lecturer at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, teaching with the Peace, War, and Defense Department. But I want to take a step back to talk a little bit about ECAR and how ECAR, or Every Campus a Refuge, was found. ECAR was found in response to Pope Francis' call on every European parish to host one refugee family. And that is how Every Campus a Refuge was founded at Guilford College by Dr. Dia Abdu in September of 2015. And actually to call on every college and university in the world to partner with their local refugee resettlement agencies to house a refugee on campus ground and assist them in resettlement. And the idea is that university and college campuses have everything necessary from housing, food, care, skills to take in refugees and support them as they begin their lives in their new home. And then as Olivia will walk us through this great new initiative of Welcome Core on Campus. However, before I hand it over to Olivia, I would like to share a little bit about myself and why I got involved in the first place and why do I think such programs are needed so much, and especially in today's world. So I am myself a refugee from Iraq. We left Iraq, or my family left Iraq back in 2006 when the sectarian war between the Shia and the Sunni erupted in Iraq, and the killing was just like on the street, uncontrollable. I've came to understand at that time when I asked my parents whether I was Shia or Sunni, which were just very new terms for me that I have never heard in my life before. And to my surprise, my dad told me that he was Sunni and my mom is Shia. So we were targeted from both Islamic radical sects. And then as a result, my family decided to leave Iraq after they received the news of my dad's first cousin who was murdered and killed literally with a drill and thrown on the trash in Baghdad Street. That was a clear message that my family needed to leave the country. So we left and we left actually the day was on my sweet 16th birthday. I spent that day traveling from Baghdad to Syria and on the way being stopped by gunpoint to question whether we were Shia or Sunni. And many people were just murdered on the scene because of their background. So it was not an easy journey, but we made it to Syria back in 2006. And there where I finished my high school. And the difficulties and challenges that I was facing at that time were just so great. I did not understand the term of culture shock. I did not understand what does it mean to really be in a new country and you're trying to adapt to things. However, my dream was just to finish my education and finish my degree and finish my higher education as well. However, in my last year of high school in Syria, I was told that I cannot attend university in Syria because of the rules, because I was a refugee, because I was displaced. So the only way I could attend university was to really go back to Iraq, which was impossible at that time because the killing was still happening on the street. I personally had my best friend who was shot and killed while she was standing right beside me when we were leaving school. So it was not an option that we could really go back to Iraq. However, as I was finishing and taking the final exam in high school, we received the news that we were accepted to get the refugee status and to be resettled to a new country. We were not told at that time where we were going to be resettled, but we started this process. At least we got the initial approval to get the refugee status. And then in 2008, in July, we were actually resettled here in High Point, North Carolina. And since then, I've considered it home and could not just leave. So we were resettled to the United States in 2008. And here, as a refugee, again, I was given the hope of at least being able to finish my education and to attend university and, just follow this dream of mine. But the problems that I was facing personally was that we were resettled through a resettlement agency. And the main thing that we're focusing on how to get the family established here, how to have them financially established. And the main thing was encouraged was work. And every time I ask about my education, how about my education? The answer always comes back, well, you speak at least a little bit of English, you can support your family, so you must work. And it took me eventually 7 to 8 years to really just finish my bachelor because I was struggling. I did not understand those main terms of FAFSA. What is FAFSA? I thought that was a funny term. I did not understand what it meant. And then I was just able to figure things out my way as I was working at the same time, supporting my families, taking them to appointments, and really took up on this entire responsibility. But then today, when we're talking about such a new great initiative like Welcome Core on campus and how that just helps and give a clear pathway to refugee students to right away start their education and further their education as they navigate the system around in the United States. And that is why I was also involved into the Welcome Core on campus and ECAR being part of the consortium members is just great to be able to sit here today and talk about my story and how can we help other refugee students to be resettled today through a new pathway that would just put them straight to success. So with this being said, I will hand it over to my colleague here, Olivia Isa, who will tell us more about the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nora. I'm always so grateful to hear you share, and I'm grateful to have you on the team. My name is Olivia Issa. I'm program lead at the National Association of Higher Education Systems, or NASH, Refugee Resettlement Initiative. Our organization works to engage higher education systems, primarily public education systems, in supporting refugee and displaced students, scholars, and families. And today I'm pleased to present on Welcome Core on campus, an exciting new program. So thank you all for joining us. First, I'll start by speaking a bit about Welcome Core, which was launched in January 2023, over a year ago now, and which has been named the boldest innovation in refugee resettlement in 4 decades. It is a new opportunity for everyday Americans to engage directly in refugee resettlement and sponsorship through private sponsorship, allowing groups of 5 or more people in the U.S. who have U.S. citizenship or are lawful permanent residents to sponsor refugees' resettlement to the U.S., welcoming them into their communities and supporting them in their transitions into the country. This is a federal program launched out of the U.S. Department of State, and in July of 2023, the Department of State launched the Welcome Core on campus, an opportunity for refugee students to enter the U.S. privately sponsored by communities on college and university campuses. This is a historic and profound opportunity to leverage the capacity of colleges and universities to pair an education and a resettlement pathway for refugee students that has never existed before. This is an opportunity to equip and empower U.S. campus communities to welcome and support the integration of refugee students and provide a higher education pathway for refugees, allowing them to obtain a college or university degree and access a durable solution, meaning a pathway to citizenship. College and university campuses across America are uniquely positioned to provide this life-changing opportunity to welcome refugee students. As Noor mentioned, campus ecosystems already welcome newcomers every single semester, right? Newcomers to your town, your city, your state, even the country on many campuses. And so campus ecosystems have education opportunities, many times housing, health services, dining plans, and additional support services, career navigation, etc., that can be leveraged to welcome and support refugee students. And so to read more about this as we speak, I'm going to put in the chat the link to our website. This program is a public-private partnership funded by the Humanitarian Bureau of the State Department, the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, and is implemented by a consortium of 6 nonprofits with expertise in higher education and refugee resettlement who have been selected by the State Department to be funded by and lead the implementation of the program. So this consortium is made up of Community Sponsorship Hub, or CSH, which coordinates the consortium, Every Campus a Refuge, which Noor is representing, or ECAR, which is tasked with providing training and ongoing support to college and universities campuses. The Institute of International Education, or IIE, which is tasked with coordinating academic placements of students. The Nash Refugee Resettlement Initiative, which I am representing, and the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. We are tasked with mobilizing colleges and university campuses to participate in this program, and the World University Service of Canada, or WUSC, which has actually been doing this program for decades, and they're tasked with identifying students abroad and providing technical assistance as they enter the US. Today's session will focus on, first, why we need an educational pathway for refugee students, what the need is. Second, this new groundbreaking opportunity that is Welcome Corps on campus. And 3, how to get your campus involved. So to first talk about why we need this educational pathway, we live in a time of historic displacement with over 108 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. And you'll see here a big portion of that 108 million have legal refugee status. There are 35.3 million refugees in the world as of 2022. I'll put the source for this information in the chat, the UNHCR, UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Global Trends Report of 2022. This number of 108 million displaced people worldwide is more than double the 42.7 million people who were forcibly displaced a decade ago, and it is the most since World War II. The speed and volume of displacement in the world is outpacing the availability of solutions for those displaced, like return, resettlement, or local integration, right? Globally, only less than 1% of people with refugee status are resettled every year. And for 2023, for last year, the United States aimed to resettle 125,000 refugees in total, which is great. It's an expansion from previous years, but is still extremely limited given the high need in the world. I will say as well, the vast majority of refugees, people with refugee status, are hosted in countries neighboring those that they were displaced from. And many refugees live in urban or camp settings and are languishing with very limited options for local integration into the economy, for education opportunities. While many may be able to access primary, secondary school, there are little to no options for higher education. In countries of asylum, such as Kenya, for example, many people with refugee status have limited rights to leave camps. And in many hubs for refugees around the world, refugees are denied the right to work. And in some places, refugees are being encouraged to repatriate to the country they fled, even though that may pose significant risk. Access to higher education is even more limited for refugees than resettlement. While they may have access to primary and secondary school, there are little to no options for higher education. So currently, the limited existing pathways for refugees to enter higher education means that only approximately 6% of refugees have access to higher education compared to approximately 40% of the global population. And so here you can see a figure this shows only 6% refugees having access to tertiary education or higher education. And in 2019, the UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, set a goal of increasing that number from 6% to 15% by 2030 and laid out a roadmap for increasing that number. This has already increased. We've seen an increase in 2019. Only 3% of refugees worldwide had access to higher education. Now we're at 6%, but there's still a significant need to increase those numbers. As many of you may know, if you have worked with students from refugee backgrounds on your campus, or if you yourself have been pursuing education and come from a context of displacement, you may know that there are some opportunities already for people from refugee backgrounds to enter higher education. The first one is by being resettled to the United States. As we said, less than 1% of refugees are resettled worldwide, but if you're part of that 1%, then there are opportunities once you get to the US to apply for higher education and pursue higher education. The way that the US tries to encourage that is many states have said that refugees who have been in our state for at least 1 year will have access to in-state tuition, for example, in some states. So there are opportunities for refugees to access higher education once they are resettled to the US. But again, resettlement is very limited. The second opportunity is for international students, right? Many of you have likely worked with or seen students on temporary student visas, like the F1 international student visa. Refugees are eligible, or people with refugee status are eligible to apply for F1 visas, but it's very hard to get as someone from a refugee background, right? Because you have to show financial independence, your plans to return to your country of origin after you finish your studies. And having a temporary status really is not sustainable for someone who has been forcibly displaced. The third opportunity that we've seen a lot in the past 3 or so years is folks entering the country on humanitarian parole, such as from Afghanistan or Ukraine, Venezuela, others. This is a temporary and discretionary authorization for folks to enter the country. But again, it's temporary, and oftentimes, as Noor was saying earlier, as soon as you get to the country, you're encouraged to work and make money for your family as soon as possible, which it's then very hard to pursue education at the same time. And so, Welcome Corps on Campus is this opportunity to meet the need both of resettlement for people with refugee status and higher education at the same time. And so a refugee student or a refugee applies to the program abroad, is accepted to the country as a college student. And so they enter the country and their home is a college campus, in many ways similar to what an international student has, right? They enter the country and they immediately go to a campus, but instead of being on a temporary visa, they are legally resettled and have 1 year track to lawful permanent residence, 5-year track to citizenship. And so what that looks like is a program that is an opportunity to build a sustainable campus infrastructure to resettle refugee students through higher education, an opportunity to bring together campus communities in the act of welcoming refugee students, a transformative cornerstone program for refugee students to access the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program and higher education. It's a way for higher education institutions to exercise their core values, such as equitable access, diversity and inclusion, experiential learning, and a program that provides sponsored training and ongoing support to campuses who are welcoming refugee students. At the same time, this is not the provision of a scholarship as an emergency or crisis response. This is not a scholarship for international students or for refugee students who are already in the US. This is just for students with refugee status abroad. This is not a partnership with a local resettlement agency or co-sponsorship. This is private sponsorship. And this is not a temporary status for students. This is not a student visa. And so with that in mind, we'll move into the student piece. Who are these students that will be entering the country? The students who are eligible for this program in the early days, as we mentioned, this program was launched last summer. And so we're still in our very early days of the program, sort of in a pilot type phase, where for the first several cohorts, we're going to keep it small and contained because we need to have staffing both in the US and on sites abroad that can process folks' cases quickly. And so with that in mind, the initial cohort of students will be between the ages of 18 and 24. They will be single with no dependents. They will have completed secondary schooling, like a high school or equivalent. They will be proficient in spoken and written English. They will be selected from Kenya and Jordan in the fall of 2024 and the fall of 2025. And this is again to ensure that we have staffing abroad who can process folks' cases quickly and efficiently. Kenya and Jordan were selected for this program because they represent protracted refugee situations, right? Where folks have been in those camps or those countries, have fled their home country and ended up in those countries for years and years and years. Many folks in those situations have no access to other durable solutions, right? No integrating into the local economy. In both countries, there are high English language proficiency levels, and so it would make acclimating to a US campus easier. Both have a relatively stable political context, which means that US staff can travel and be based there and process cases in person. And we at the consortium have a strong network of partners in those countries at this time. In both countries, there are a range of demographics of people with refugee status who come from a number of countries of origin. For example, in Kenya, there are high demographics of people from Somalia, South Sudan, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, Burundi, Sudan, etc. Folks will apply to this program, and our team at the Institute of International Education will review applicants and match them to campuses. And so when campuses, hopefully some of your campuses will be interested in participating in this program, your admissions teams will submit a form saying we want this kind of student with this GPA, this English language proficiency, et cetera, these interests maybe. And our team will match all of the student applicants to admissions offices and present, here are some students that are eligible for your institution based on the requirements that you put forth, and the admissions team will make the final decision on who they admit. All students in the first several years of this program will enroll in associate's degrees or bachelor's degrees, so all undergraduate programs. And so I'm going to pause here and ask for you all to share in the chat a response to this question. We have a question. If a student you knew was arriving to the US with very little, what would you want them to have access to in their first year in the US? And I'll ask you to put this in the chat. I think for me, one big thing that comes to mind is access to transportation and an understanding of how to use transportation to make sure that they can get anywhere they'd like independently. I see in the chat housing, a community of support, like that mentorship. Great. Thank you, Regina. Supportive community. Right. Great. Thank you all. And so this feeds into, we kept this question in mind as we put together this next list of core sponsorship services that must be provided to refugee students for a minimum of 12 months after they arrive. I see access to funding instead of them having to seek it out. Great comment in the chat. And so any campus that commits to participating in Welcome Core on campus needs to form a group, a sponsor group that will ensure that these core sponsorship services are provided to incoming refugee students for a minimum of 12 months after they arrive on campus. And so this includes receiving these students from the airport and transporting them to campus, full financial support. Thank you in the chat. This includes tuition, housing costs, dining plans, etc. Basic necessities, phone plan, for example, essential documentation, which our team will help facilitate, health and mental health services. You think about, that's top priority for someone. Transportation, English language support, support enrolling in classes, academic support services, cultural and social connections, community, cultural, and campus orientation, and reporting and feedback to our consortium. I think back to when I was in college, the institution I was at, I can really map out this list where I would look on my campus to fill each of these requirements, right? Support enrolling in classes and providing academic support. I think of the academic advisor that I worked with all throughout undergrad, right? I think of a cultural and social connections. My campus had a multicultural student services center. I would really ask them to step in and provide some cultural and social connections here. So you can really, as you look at this list, start to think about who all you might tap to help provide these services. And so with that in mind, each campus that participates in Welcome Core on campus will need to form a campus sponsor group in which at least 5 individuals on campus who are over the age of 18, who are lawful citizens, American citizens or lawful permanent residents, and who are directly connected to the campus as students, faculty, staff, alumni, local community members, commit to providing those core sponsorship services for a period of 12 months, which is the sponsor period. That same sponsor group can sponsor 1 student or more than 1 student, right? You can sponsor 5 students all at once in the same year. The sponsor group will be trained by our team, receive a number of trainings, background checks, and have a primary contact or lead coordinator for the sponsor group that will manage the sponsor groups, make sure everyone meets their requirements, and make sure refugee students are received and supported adequately. We really encourage that these campus sponsor groups consist of a diverse set of campus stakeholders who can provide a range of services, from logistical services to maybe peer mentorship. And so with that in mind, we've come up with a suggested list of ideas of who could be part of a sponsor group. We could have staff members from admissions offices, community engagement, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You could have faculty from across disciplines, students who are members of the student association or clubs or peer mentors who can provide guidance to these students. But as well, you could have alumni who live near the campus or local community members contributing. The institution also plays a pivotal role in the implementation of Welcome Core on campus. The institution will contribute a letter of commitment signed by executive leadership, a president or chancellor on your campus, who says, I know this program is happening on my campus and I will ensure it works effectively. The institution can select to provide full financial support or partial financial support by providing scholarships to incoming students, tuition waivers, grants, housing, costs, meal plans, etc. The institution can support in fundraising for Welcome Core on campus. We often connect with development or advancement offices for the institution to work on fundraising, etc. And in the interest of time, I'm gonna move a little faster. I got excited. For the application process, in order to officially commit to participating in Welcome Core on campus, the campus sponsor group, that group of 5 or more individuals, complete a third-party background check, a community essentials training with a knowledge check, training led by our team. They develop a plan for welcoming the student and submit it through a centralized application portal and sign a code of conduct committing to providing core services. They provide an academic admissions information letter saying this is the kind of student we want with just this GPA, this English proficiency, etc. Provide an institutional commitment letter and proof of funds raised to ensure that the student's funding will be covered. And then our team reviews all of those materials in the background check and decides whether or not that campus will be ready to receive a student for the following academic year. And so with that in mind, I I hope that you all might be interested in participating in this program. I'll put the link, an email in the chat to reach out to for more information. And if you'd like to set up a bilateral meeting, like a one-on-one meeting with our team, what we usually encourage, if your campus is interested in taking part in the program, we encourage you to consider key questions and map stakeholders on your campus. So think about who needs to be part of this program and at what point do you need to engage them. Conduct outreach and awareness, spread information on your campus about the program, form a campus sponsor group, that group of 5 or more individuals, secure funding and commitments from members of your institution, and submit your final application through our application portal. We at Welcome Corps on campus will identify refugee students overseas, place them at institutions with certified private sponsor groups, prepare refugee students overseas academically to be ready for campus. We will process overseas immigration paperwork through the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, provide sponsor application support and training and ongoing support, and support campuses in developing sustainable funding mechanisms. And so if this program seems exciting to you, I really hope that you'll reach out to us and we can sit down, have a meeting, and really map out a strategy for getting your campus ready to participate in this program. And I'll leave you with a final statement that talent is everywhere, opportunity is not. And so enrolling refugee students unleashes talent and spurs new opportunities for campuses, opens opportunities both for refugee students and for every member of your campus to be part of this transformative program. And so with that, I know we're a little behind on time, but I'd like to take questions from you all to see. You can either put your questions in the chat or unmute and ask questions. I'll leave it for one more moment before I
It was
pass.
just so comprehensive. There's no questions. I'm sorry, what was the timeline again for the
Yeah.
next round of applications?
Thank you for asking. I had not even mentioned that. Great question. Applications are due to open likely in March and close in September for campuses interested in welcoming students in the fall of 2025. So you'll have from March to September to complete applications, but we can get started talking about it now. So I put in the chat our campus email, campus@welcomecorps.org, if you'd like to get involved. And so I will share screen again and introduce.
Sorry, one more follow-up. Is there like a listserv or someplace for folks to sign up so that they get alerted when that application's available in March?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, as Eamon's speaking, I'll go ahead and put a couple helpful links in the chat, like our newsletter, Great Question Yet newsletter, our website. We have a mobilization toolkit, like a couple pages outlining how you can get started on your campus, and some other helpful resources. Yeah, great question. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Eamon.
Okay, can everybody hear me well? Okay, perfect. So first of all, I just want to thank FAND and ECAR for the opportunity to speak today. I'm very honored to be here and just speak about the Welcome Corps on campus, and my role as a student in the private sponsorship group at George Mason University. So just to introduce myself, my name is Ayman Habib, and I'm an undergraduate student. I'm majoring in global affairs at George Mason University. GMU is located in Northern Virginia, and it's only a 30-minute drive to the nation's capital, DC. And we are the largest public university in the state. We are also the most diverse university in the state, and that's a statistic that we take a lot of pride on. So the way that I was introduced to the Welcome Corps on campus was after my student organization, No Lost Generation at Mason, received some correspondence from the consortium, and it was just regarding this new program that was for supporting refugee students abroad by offering them a path to residency through higher education in the US. And No Lost Generation at Mason, we're also known as NLG at Mason, very long name, so I'm going to try to use the acronym. We are the latest chapter of a student-led initiative that began in 2015 to advocate for refugees on American university campuses. We have five student leaders currently on the board of our student organization. They all come from very diverse backgrounds. They come from refugee backgrounds, immigrant backgrounds, and we're all dedicated to advocating for refugees and supporting the right to access for higher education opportunities for them. So when we heard about the possibility of hosting refugee students on our campus at George Mason, we were committed to making it happen. This was not an easy process by any means. It required meetings that would go into the late hours of the night. We drafted our plans. We even had to miss our classes on occasions so that we could attend conferences that would help us network. And there were a lot of emails. My inbox is evidence for that. And after months of working tirelessly, then we managed to get our university's president, President Gregory Washington, to finally sign off on the commitment letter. And the formation of our PSG, private sponsorship group, was a very core part of our proposal. We knew that the PSG had to represent the diversity at our university, and we made sure that it did. I personally decided to join because I had been working on convincing the administration of George Mason, and also it just felt like the next step to supporting my student organization's cause. And additionally, my status as an immigrant, it had also equipped me with resources and experiences that I knew would benefit the sponsored students. And I had also interned at a refugee resettlement agency in the past, ECDC, if anybody knows, and they gave me a lot of casework experience, so I felt like I would be a good fit to help these students. And I also think that a student who knows how to navigate the resources on their campus is a great fit for the PSG. You just need to have the drive to contribute. And students must be a part of this process because we are truly the voice of these higher education institutions. Currently in our PSG at George Mason University, we have faculty and students in our PSG. As Olivia was mentioning earlier in the presentation, there needs to be a diverse set of stakeholders involved, and we made sure that that is the case for our PSG. And we have had meetings with our PSG, all the members, to discuss how we can create effective plans and get some resources ready for the students when they come in. And it was certainly not an easy process, as I mentioned earlier. There were countless hurdles. There were valid concerns from our university's administration regarding funding and housing, and some of which we're still dealing with. We still get emails from our university asking questions. But I think what we've tried to do with my student organization is that working diligently to talk to the right people and gathering all the answers that we need to just get this program approved, and then continuing after it's been approved to serve as this helper to the university that we can help guide you. And we had to also assess the factors that made our university a great fit for the program. One of the main reasons that we kept bringing up to stakeholders was that GMU has a very huge diaspora of East African people in our university, and that was just one of the giveaways for just having this program at our university, because the students that are coming in would obviously have a community that they're familiar with and that they recognize when they are welcomed on our campus. And then also student body support was very critical, in my opinion, with getting our message across. And I don't think any of this would be possible if it were not for students advocating for it. So as a student in the PSG, I do not just want to be a sponsor to the students that are coming in. I also want to serve as a friend. And whether it's like escorting them from one class to another, touring them around the campus, or like speaking about their journey, or telling them which mental health resource would be best for them. I just want to be there and be present for them and help them achieve a successful life in the United States. And I was privileged enough to experience the American dream, and if I can help somebody who has lived a life full of challenges achieve that dream, then I would be honored to do so. And I encourage all student leaders to take on the responsibility of forming the PSG at their own campus and implementing the Welcome Core on campus at their campuses. It's a rewarding experience, definitely, and I'm so grateful to be a part of the group. And I also hope that after the pilot, this program continues and that the GM Mason, trying our best at the very first cohort, we can also become an exemplar for the implementation for it. And if there's any student leaders in this call, or if there's any university personnel that are interested in introducing the Welcome Core on campus on their campus, then I just want to let you guys know that NLG at Mason would be more than happy to share the experiences that we've had, the challenges that we've faced, and the lessons that we've learned with you guys to make sure that we can get this program spread out more. And I also want to thank everybody who has put in the effort to launch and also just to sustain this program. It's very exciting that we will be welcoming the new students in a couple of months, and our team is very, very excited, and the PSG is ready to sponsor them. So thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to speak here today.
Thank you, Ayman, and all the presenters today. My name is James Atem, and I'm a refugee advisor for the Welcome Core on campus. My work entails advising NGOs and governments working in resettlement and higher education. I was a refugee in Kenya before I came to the United States on a graduate scholarship to Columbia SIPA. I moved from my country, South Sudan, to Kenya during the Second Sudanese Civil War. By then, life was very hard in the refugee camp, but I worked very hard and excelled in primary and secondary school and got a UN scholarship to the university, graduating first in class. I was the first refugee to teach in a Kenyan public university, and I was later recruited by the UNHCR as an education ambassador to encourage refugee students in the refugee camp to go to school and work hard to get that scholarship. So I understand the value of higher education. Having experienced displacement as a refugee from South Sudan, my decision to join the Welcome Core on campus stems from empathy and the need to help refugees facing similar challenges. My first-hand experience of the obstacle refugee encounters drives my advocacy for refugee rights and beliefs in education as a tool for empowerment. Students on refugee scholarship encounter many challenges after arriving in the United States, including access to legal representation to apply for the asylum, temporary protected status, and work permits. Still, these are fully addressed under the Welcome Core on campus because students are granted a green card upon entry to the United States under this program. The scholarship's value lies in providing refugee students access to higher education, facilitating resettlement opportunities, empowering them with skills, fostering community, and aiding their integration into the US society. That said, the Welcome Core on campus is creating a lasting positive impact on the lives of refugees. My involvement also reflects a dedication to positively impacting the lives of refugees. This program is more than just financial support. It is a beacon of hope, fostering a sense of community among refugee students, equipping them with the skills needed for success. By joining hands with the Welcome Core on campus, we are investing in the education of individuals and shaping the future of resilient, determined leaders who will contribute to the diverse fabric in our society. Thank you so much for listening today.
Thank you, James. And thank you all for joining today. I see some really great comments in the chat. I'd like to pause here and see if there are any questions from the audience, having heard the full presentation. Any questions for Ayman about her experience? I always have questions for George Mason University. I see them as examples to the whole country for how to lead a really grassroots effort to engage in this program. But I'd love to hear from you all if you have any questions or just general reflections on whether this might work at your campus or if there are resources that you might want to leverage on your campus. No question. Yes, Beth.
Yeah, I might have missed it, but are there other campuses in this first cohort, or I'm just curious about like the network of folks that are starting this
Yeah.
off, and what your hopes are for expanding, and like how many campuses? I don't know if you have that in mind or not.
Love this question. I'll take this, and Nora and Eamon, feel free to chime in as well. But we can't publicly announce the campuses yet. That is like we're in the final stages of being able to announce it. But I can say that we had a really great cohort of folks who applied from across the country at a range of institutions, from small private four-year institutions to huge public land grant institutions. I think I really feel excited about land grant universities that have missions aligned with serving their community. They found a great way to align this with community needs and their missions. I hope that we can share that list publicly very soon. So if you sign up for our newsletter, I hope you'll see that. In year 2 of the program, our goal is to secure spots for around 75 students coming in from abroad. It'll depend on how many institutions or how many students each institution takes. In the first year, we had an average of 2 students per university, with some taking more, some taking less. In year 2, we are setting our own internal goal of mobilizing around 50 colleges and universities, with a particular focus on community colleges, because we see that community colleges already have really rich diversity on their campuses, serve a high number of refugee background students. We recognize that many community colleges do not have on-campus housing, and so there can be challenges there, but our team is ready to approach those challenges and workshop them together on a case-by-case basis. What I really love about where we're at in the program is that we're big enough to start seeing little proofs of concept here and there, but we're still small enough to really give individualized planning time. And so I really hope that if any of you are interested in engaging your campus, you'll reach out and make sure that we can set up a one-on-one call or even campus visit to get started. What was the second? Was there a second part of your question I didn't answer?
No, I think you answered it all. That's really helpful for the context. Maybe just a follow-up is you mentioned like some are, I thought about that, maybe it's best to, think about hosting 2 students so that there's, support, right? Mutual peer support. And so I don't know if that's something that is pretty common, or I just was thinking about that as you mentioned that.
The strength of a cohort program, I think, we never want a student to feel alone. And there are many different ways to make sure students feel surrounded by community, but I think a big one is ensuring your campus is welcoming of more than just one student at a time. That would be definitely the ideal. I've seen, and I'll pass to Emma, Noor, or James to add in anything else on this, but I have been really happy to see some campuses mobilize their first generation student center or student offices to sort of see these students as first generation students, probably first generation in their family to enter higher education, but definitely first in their family to enter higher education in the US, and match those cohort kind of models to these students' needs. And Patricia asked, oh, go ahead.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Oh, this is Imam. I am 20 years old. I'm going this year. My parents Zahid and Nurba. I complete class 8 from number 1 Best Education High School of Zivinchong. I used to live in Zivinchonville, Strak, which is northern part of Mondur, Rakhine State in Myanmar. It's been almost 6 years that I came from Myanmar to Bangladesh, and I am a refugee who is struck by here. Currently, I live in Sabbulak, Membulak, Balukali 1, Ukia, Cox's, Bangladesh. And I am a student, jobless. My ambition is to go for foreign country just for making a student life. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for telling me to say about myself in front of you, and I will send you a lot of messages in my personally, but here is network problem, that's why I can't say you anymore, because here is very difficult to using internet mobile. If you give me your Gmail address, and I will give you my detail, because I can't say anymore because here is network problem, that's why. And so here is no light to say you. Thank you so much for letting me to say in front of you.
Thank you, Iman. Thank you for sharing your situation, and thank you for taking the time today. I'm
Yeah,
very
madam, here situation is very bad because Bangladesh government cannot allow us using mobile and internet.
I've put
That's
our
why I can't. I
thank you.
will, if you give me your Gmail address, and I will give you my personal detail all in detail.
Thank
So-
you, Iman.
Iman, I think there is an email address in the chat. So again, thank you for your story. I'm
I
gonna
got
ask that you go
I
back
got it.
on mute so that we can let other folks ask questions and as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Iman. I look forward to
You're welcome.
Thank you. I see another question in the chat from Patricia, if the participants would enter the US with a green card. So students will be resettled to the US through this program, and so they'll come in as resettled refugees. As refugees, they will have a 1-year track to green card or lawful permanent residence and a 5-year track to citizenship. So they come in with legal status, which qualifies them for federal financial aid. And in some states qualifies them for in-state tuition upon arrival, in some states after 1 year of residency. Some states it takes longer, but that's a great question about legal status. Thank you. And I see another question about the slides as a resource. I can't share the slides in the chat, but if you send an email to campus@welcomecorps.org with a request for the slides, I can share like an abridged version of these slides. And then our website hopefully will have a bunch of resources. We have all these like 1-page, 5-page documents that can hopefully be helpful as you mobilize your campus.
And assuming it's okay with the speakers, we have a copy of the slides and we've also recorded the call. And I'll probably shave off all the Q&A at the end, but we plan to put this out through our newsletter next week. So if that's okay with you guys, we can make the slides available as well as the call recording.
Thank you, Hillary. We'll follow up with you via email. That's great.
Sure.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, I guess I'll just say if anybody in the FEN network is interested in this and needs a thought partner or some help, let us know. There's also an existing network of local nonprofits and campuses that supports current immigrant and refugee students on campuses separate from this program. And so if you're interested in getting connected to that, I believe it is it's either led by HIAS or NSC, Nationality Support Center. I have the contact information and I can get you connected if you're not already on that list and are interested.
Great.
All right.
Thank you so much, Hillary, for hosting us. Thank you to all who attended. It was great to see you.
Thank you all for sharing your stories and for doing this important work. Yeah, it's really inspirational.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.